All right, good evening, and thank you to all who are in the room and who's watching this later on the recordings. My name is Todd Christie. I'm the Speaker of the House for the Michigan Dental Association. Tonight we are doing I'm going to do a training for delegate and alternate delegates, preparing for a successful 2022 MDA House of Delegates. So, folks, here's where we're going to be. The Suburban Show. I want to keep saying the Showcase Showdown. I'm an old school Price is Right fan, but this is the Suburban Collection Showplace. And folks, we are now, as of today, 38 days from the House of Delegates, the first meeting. So get excited. If you're watching this later, you got to figure out your own days. So here's what I want to get accomplished with you tonight for what our objectives are. We're going to talk about the reference committee. We're going to talk about giving testimony. We're going to talk about your pre-House of Delegates caucus for your region, hopefully, if not your region or your component to have that. And last, I will overload you with more information than you can handle, but don't worry, it's all written down. You don't have to take notes. And you know what? There's a thing called the Delegates Digest, and a lot of that's already going to be in there, and you've seen it before. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and the one point I will say for those who are watching this live, not asynchronous, but if you're live right now, if you go through and have a question or a comment, go through and throw that in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that. I finally, after all these 2 years of fun with Zoom, the only thing I wish I had was a second monitor here to make it easier because I found out that, I'm getting older and I do need to have readers for some things, but for this, I only have the one screen, but I've got the chat set up so we can do that. Thank you to Zoom for doing what we need to do to make these presentations work. So let's go ahead and get started here. First, the reference committee. This for me is one of my favorite topics to look at. And the topics you're seeing tonight, we won't be talking about when we get to the in-person training on April 27th. But this is really to set the groundwork so you understand some of these topics. And when we do the one in person that we'll talk about later, those are going to be more hands-on that I want to do because that's the best way to do it is in person. But what we have here is the reference committee. So with the reference committee, what's the duty of the reference committee, the reason we have it, and what the timing of all that is. Let's see here. So the primary duty of the reference committee is to recommend to the House of Delegates an appropriate course of action or matters. So with that, the whole idea is this committee is set up with the ability to save hours of time on the floor of the House during deliberations, during our House meetings. Typically, the second meeting of the House is where there'll be more questions. So on here, I just want to give you an idea of the timing of that. The reference committee hearing for 2022 is going to follow the candidate forum. So we'll have the first meeting of the House that will begin at 8:30. When that finishes, we'll take a short, probably 15-minute break to reset the room to do the candidate forum. So that is for where we will have the candidate forum for those for trustee. And if we do have any contested elections for the executive positions for president-elect, secretary, treasurer, or for editor, we would have that in there as well. So we anticipate that the reference committee hearing will be approximately around noon on Thursday. Now, it's a reference committee hearing, not a meeting, but I just want to, so you have the official words, a reference committee hearing that we'll be holding, but this allows the time to provide opportunities for the association members, and even non-members can attend this as well, to present their views on any of the proposed resolutions and the association reports we have. So during that meeting, members can ask questions about the resolutions, offer their comments and express opinions. And as well, association officers, committee chairs, staff members can also present relevant information. So let's say somebody comes in and they didn't quite understand a background statement. They can go through the reference committee to ask for the appropriate MDA staffer, or maybe from one of the committee chairs, they can ask a question and those people can provide the answer back to the person asking the question, as well as the entire assembly can hear that answer as well. So that's what one of the parts of this is, especially when there are questions. And sometimes you hear a question through the chair too, and typically it might go through Karen Burgess to begin, and she'll, we'll make sure the right MDA staff member is getting that answer for you. So during the hearing, everyone with questions and statements are there to speak. Remember, all testimony is just testimony. We aren't going through to make any motions during this meeting. We're speaking to the resolutions or the reports that we have before us. Testimony at this time for the reference committee is limited to 2 minutes until all who wish to speak have presented. we don't, this way it allows everyone the opportunity. Typically during this hearing, you will have a pro mic and a con mic, so speaking for or against. So those who are in favor of a resolution will go to the for microphone. Those against will go to the con microphone. And typically what they will do is go through and go pro, con, pro, con. I've seen it at the ADA meetings as well as our own when we've had everything in person, where there might be a line that's longer on one of the microphones. So we still have to wait for all those people to go before, if you've spoken, you've got to wait for everyone else to go until you go the next time. Right now, for what we have is that we have typically a limit of 20 minutes for each resolution or committee report that we speak on, that's being evaluated or that the hearing is for. It's typically 20 minutes. But I know, and you'll see from some of the reports that we have, and more so from the resolutions, I do believe we'll have additional time available to go through some of those that might have generated more conversation. And so we're working with that. And today, the Committee on Credentials, Rules, and Order, we reallocated some additional time because we do have a number of resolutions that we know will have discussion. And so we want to make sure there's ample time for the members and the people attending the hearing to provide testimony to the committee. So what does the reference committee do? Listens objectively, because they're going to take the weight of the deliberations and come up with the best way forward. They need to objectively evaluate the resolutions and the testimony provided and decide how to dispose of the resolutions. So they got to listen, take notes, and then they're going to meet after that meeting and go, all right, what's our best way forward? What is the voice of the association coming to us, and what's the best way forward? If you have one person speak for it and 20 going against it, typically a reference committee would look at that and say they're not in favor of that, and that would be the recommendation coming to the House for the Saturday meeting. I could be surprised, we could all be surprised, but that's one thing we look at. But that's why I want them to objectively evaluate the resolutions and what they hear as well. As again, we want to treat all fairly. That's why everyone is given the same amount of time. Think about it. You're given 2 minutes. You've got to utilize your time wisely. And we'll talk about more later when we talk about providing testimony. So who is in the reference committee? So right now for our members of the reference committee, and you can go through on the MDA website and see who's on that reference committee now. The committee is made up of delegates and alternates, and the appointment to serve, I made those and completed those. I think I had everyone done with all our committees by the second week of January. I like to hit the ground running in January to get those all done. So those were all selected back in the early part of January. And for those of you on this or watching this, I always say thank you, because I know I appreciate your service to our association. This for me, reference committee, as I always say, is serving on this committee is one of the most important duties of a delegate or alternate because of the work that they do to help this association. Now, as I said, once the hearing is closed, the entire committee goes into executive session. Not in that room. We put them off somewhere else. It makes it hard for me to find them. Sometime Michelle and the crew tuck them away somewhere. I know where they're at. They have beverages, there's stuff there so they can get through all their deliberations and get the work done. But what they're going to do is they go into executive session to review the testimony provided and to form their recommendations of that committee for what they're going to present to the House of Delegates for its second meeting. So typically that report, given the fact that we're back in person, is that usually that Thursday afternoon meeting. I've seen it over my years right now. When we had in person, they were getting done by 4 o'clock. This year it might go a little longer just based on the volume of resolutions. And I know we have a number more that are coming in that I'm helping folks with. But usually, and I would anticipate that report will be out via email, via Delegate Digest to everyone by Friday morning or on the website too. So the decision. So on every topic you have before you, the reference committee is going to form an opinion on it and provide that to the House as part of their committee report. So they'll either recommend to adopt, to not adopt, to refer, and the last one here is adopt a new resolution in lieu of the initial resolution or resolutions. So if there are multiple ones on a similar topic, they would go through typically and I've seen this in the in lieu of, it really helps out, is that it would take a bulk of maybe 3 or 4, and I've seen it at ADA with 6 different resolutions that are thrown at them. And based on the preponderance of the testimony that was provided at the hearing, they'll go through and group those down and give their recommendation in lieu of those other ones. And I'll talk about that once we get into the meeting, and as well when I do my presentation to your caucuses on Saturday. If we do have anything like that, I'll explain to you the procedure for that. But so those are the 4 we typically have. My guess is you're either going to see adopt, not adopt, or adopt a new resolution with the in lieu of, because referring in this situation, they'd be referring to the board, and that would be one other option, but I don't anticipate it, but that would be kind of my 4th in line of all those there. So here, with kind of where we're at with reference committee, I just stop and see, and this is from one of my favorite places. We go up to Manistee a lot, and I just saw that. I thought it was a cool picture, so I took it. Any questions that anyone has in regards to the reference committee at this point? All right, seeing none yet, we'll move on. All right, folks, here's where it is. It's the Mr. Microphone time, providing testimony. And I think there's only about 3 or 4 of us on here who remember Mr. Microphone from back in the 80s. So, all right, cool. Let's go through, folks. Guess what? That's not us this year. We're in person. Yeah, that's what I can't wait for. I don't have to stare at a screen with no one in the room and not seeing people coming to a microphone. So I'm ecstatic about that. Testimony and being in person is one thing that I know have people have noted in the evaluations they provided. They look forward to being in person. So I'm excited that I don't have to stare at a screen, and more importantly, you don't have to stare at a screen. One thing I will let you know, since we're not staring at screens, you need to wear pants to the House of Delegates this year, men. Sorry, no shorts. Pants have to be worn. Ladies, whatever you choose to wear, slacks, dresses, your choice. But guys, we're wearing pants. That was the big thing when I went to parliamentary training. They're like, if you presided a meeting that's virtual, you should wear pants. I'm like, I didn't get that. By the way, for the 2 houses, I wore shorts at my first one because it was in May and it was warm. And second one, yes, I wore pants for that one. So just in case you want to know. That's not information overload or whatever. That's later. All right, so let's get through to providing testimony. All right, this is important for both the areas that we'll come into, whether we're meeting during the House of Delegates in the first or second meetings of the House, but also, as I said before, for providing testimony at the reference committee hearing. So this is important for all of these. Now, as I said, the reference committee, there's a 2-minute time limit. I always will suggest when you provide testimony is keep it tight, the timeline wise, and we'll get to that here later too. Sometimes the less said, the better, which for those who know me is hard for me to stop talking, which is why I can go like this for hours. So first, in your testimony, what's your headline? What are your supporting points? And lastly, what's your call to action? Let's break those down here. A headline. Wow. Most importantly, you got to let people know who you are. It's part of the headline. So state your name, tell us where you're from, so what component you're with, and let your position be known in regards to the resolution before this. Resolution 12, Todd Christie, Lakeland Valley. I am not in support of Resolution 12. That's simple on the headline. You go into the supporting points. So you let them know who you are, where you're from, and how you feel. Supporting points are next. When you look at these, you want to determine what resonates best with you as to why you have this opinion on that resolution, against or for. You know what? Good news here. And this is where some of what we had when we were apart, when we were doing it remotely, it did make it easier if you wanted to write stuff down. But that being said, you all know, for those who were served in those last 2 years of the House, it was a little more challenging giving testimony if you weren't used to it, used to doing it. But big thing for me is always write it down to begin with. Okay, write down the points that you're thinking, put your top one down on top and list them down and figure those out as to, like I said, what is your strongest reason why you're against or for something. Here's the other point. Do this ahead of time. Be ready. I wouldn't say that as they're reading it off, you finally open your packet. Do not just open your packet right before the House of Delegates, okay? And I can see people smiling because I know who you are, but I know you all read it ahead of time. But this one, talk to your colleagues, and that'll come up later in discussion too. Realize the other important part. People will remember stories first, statistics second, okay? One thing I know, when they start reading statistics at some meetings, my eyes glaze over. I think you all might get that too, unless you're a treasurer of an association or that's what you're into, is statistics. But the story is the big thing too. So it resonates back to why your opinion is there and what the point is, and tell the story as to why. That was how I would think the best way to do that is for the points. Last, call to action. Remind them why you're giving testimony, why you're for, why you're against. Vote yes or no for this resolution. That vote yes or no is when we get to the second meeting in the House, during the House, not for the reference committee. You're not telling them how to vote at reference committee. You're just providing your perspective. Another good word here is be mindful of this, especially when you're at the microphone during the House. Maybe we should have a running thing for who uses this the most, Michelle. We could keep track over at the side. I'm a little busy up on the dais there, but we can see if someone used be mindful of this, maybe we have to buy them. No, we're not saying buy drinks. That's a different thing for the ADA meeting. Last, let's get to it. You want them to do something at the end, and you'll see a little example of that later. Last, this is what's important. Be brief, be bright, and you can all read along now, be gone. Okay, keep it tight, get out of the way. So here is someone some of you may know. I see smiles already. And you know what, one thing, I look at Vince Benavenia, I look at his shot with that one, I look at mine, I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I know it's neat that we had our board meeting here in Benton Harbor back in September, and everyone wanted to come into my library here and say, this is where the magic happens. No, that's not it. I just do a lot of Zoom from here. But the cool part was we did training here last in 2021 with the board, and these are some of the examples I wanted to share with you. And you might have seen them before, but I really felt strong. When we look at this for Vince, realize his talk right here is a minute, I believe, 56 seconds. So let's go through and listen to Vince.
Vincent Benavenia. I'm an oral surgeon practicing in East Lansing, Michigan. I would like to ask you for your support to increase Medicaid funding for anesthesia services. As an oral surgeon, I treat a lot of children and special needs patients that require sedation or general anesthesia to be able to provide their care. Most of the time I can provide this care in my office, but there are times when, due to the particular medical history, I cannot provide the care in my office and instead must take them to the hospital and treat them in an operating room setting. Most of these patients are covered under Medicaid insurance. Unfortunately, oral surgeons and pediatric dentists that treat these patients that require care in the operating room are having trouble scheduling OR time in hospitals. Hospitals are cutting back and limiting allotted time slots for our patients, I believe, because of the lack of profit that these cases bring to the hospital because of low Medicaid reimbursement. In other words, hospitals are losing money by allowing me to treat my Medicaid patients at their facility. Because of this situation, there's becoming a backlog of these patients and their treatment is being delayed, all the while their dental health is deteriorating. We need to be vocal on this issue and advocate for these underserved patients. Specifically, the MDA will be lobbying our legislators for increased funding of Medicaid anesthesia services so we can once again provide the desperately needed dental care. Please join me in this effort and reach out to your representatives. When you receive the text to action alert from the MDA on this issue, please act and don't ignore it. Our voices must be heard to affect change. Thank you.
And you know what? I was wrong. That was a minute 42. But you heard the points that we talked about with the headline, the supporting points, and the call to action there at the end. He got all those in a minute 42. By the way, I'd vote for that. Let's go through to see there as well. Let's go on to next with providing testimony. One more point here. So the delivery to enhance your credibility. So when we listen to Vince, and we'll listen to another one here in a little bit, you want to have that delivery. You want to avoid the ums, the ahs, the you knows. This is where writing it down, not a bad thing. If you haven't gone through and stepped up, now I'm going to move my camera to go through and step before a microphone in your past, and you don't do that regular to get up and speak. Yep, it can be a little nerve wracking. You got to get used to it. I've only done it once or twice. And so with that, that's why. So you got the ums, the ahs, and the, with that one. Just or sorry. Folks, we've learned this in our practices. Just as a minimizing word. We don't use that. You don't say, oh, it's just a little cavity. Really? Don't do that when you provide testimony, and sorry, you're making excuses. Just be strong with that one. Be bright, be brief, and be gone, get those done. This might not work, but how many things are wrong with that statement as well? Because you're just already minimizing it again. Up talk is when you finish your voice and so are you asking a question? No, you're not. Make a statement, don't make a question. Oh, there, I even said it there. Voices goes up when you're asking a question. It's like I've talked about this before, right? All right, if there's no question, your voice should go down. Just did it there. I'm practicing to get ready. So, all right, providing testimony. Let's keep moving on. Now, here we have Lauren Vanderhoof from the Grand Rapids area. And let's go through and listen and see what Lauren provides in showing us another example in regards to providing testimony.
What would you do with $292,000? You could buy a house, you could buy a Ferrari, maybe even a yacht, or you could follow your dreams of becoming a dentist. Now imagine starting off your career with $292,000 in debt. And don't forget to compound that with interest. The Health Policy Institute reports in 2019, the average debt of graduating dentists was $292,000, an amount that has almost doubled in the last 20 years and has been increasing by an inflation adjusted amount of 3.3% annually. Staggering debt has a wide-ranging impact on the career choices of our member dentists. It influences where they work, what type of practice they work at, if they become a practice owner, and the populations that they serve. And all this contributes to the gap in access to care and rising healthcare costs. The MBA is advocating on behalf of its members to help alleviate the burden of student debt by supporting policies that focus on reducing the cost of dental school tuition, supporting favorable financial policies such as refinancing, reducing interest rates, and increasing tax incentives, and by supporting policies and opportunities that provide loan forgiveness, repayment, scholarships, and grants. The student debt crisis is real, and it's affecting the livelihood of our members. Our members need help, and to help our member dentists succeed, I encourage you to get involved and take action to help fight the student debt crisis. Thank you.
All right, that was 1:58, just so you know. So you can accomplish a lot in under 2 minutes. All right, I'll stop here. I see from Stephen as well. I literally had this today. It's yes, exactly from what Vince was talking about. I think Stephen is when that popped up there in our chat. So from that point, anything else, anything that anyone would like to add in regards to providing testimony? I know this is not a good opportunity to take a quick look at that. If anyone has anything, or if there's anything that stood out for you, share it, and that'd be terrific too. But again, like I said, those were practiced, those were written down, they were provided. Do I always do that? No. House of Delegates ADA, I'll take talking points. I'll know what I'm going. This year we had some parliamentary things that we were trying to get done, and I had everything written down. I went to the microphone up front, and I already told the speaker what I was going to do, so he knew what I was coming up to the microphone to do. And by the way, when it comes to anything, when you're providing testimony or working, if you have any questions as to how to do something, please reach out to me or Michelle. We can help you with that. On the parliamentary stuff, let me know. If there's something you not sure how to do it, but providing testimony is a big thing, or making sure you get your testimony heard is always important to me. Having your voice heard is what we're here to have. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll move on. Third topic here, pre-House of Delegates caucus. Wow, that's a nice looking room. Smaller caucus, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. So here's where we go. What you should do. Now, I think hopefully for those of you with your delegations, you're making a decision as to when and where you're going to meet. If you don't already know, all the resolutions that have been provided so far and that have been approved are on the website too. There's a list of those right on the House of Delegates website. You can download and look at everything after you get done watching this. But with that, you want to go through and review those. Review them yourself first, think about them, take notes on them, and then get together. So typically, regions have been meeting in the month of April at some point when they've done in the past. I know that one region who typically hadn't met, thanks to the glory of Zoom, can now meet. I know that's Region 1 up there in the Upper Peninsula. That's one who has been meeting and using that by Zoom, so they can go all the way across their wide span of area that they cover. So, but go through, review the resolutions and reports that's before the House. Go through, discuss and debate, figure out your pros and cons. Have somebody, I know at our board level for the board, in the past, our president would ask one person to kind of be the speak against something or speak for it, either way, just so we could have a discussion, but evaluate on your own the pros and cons and figure out with this one, with that each resolution, what's the good, what's the bad, and is there an ugly, take a look at it that way. If you have any questions or need clarification, reach out to the MDA team or the board. If you take a look at a resolution and let's say there's a question on, like for this year, there's 2 bylaws resolutions in regards to membership. If you read it and can't understand it, reach out to Angie Kinesi, reach out to the membership and to her at membership and ask, or to the board, ask the board, hey, what's going on with this? That's what we're here for. Answer this question when you look at the resolution. Is this best for the Michigan Dental Association? If you can answer that question with a yes, maybe you're going to look to voting for it. If it's a no, then you vote no, or that's how you start to form your opinions on it. If you read that and you're reading through it at your caucus or before, and you say, do we want to make a change to this so we can we can improve upon it? Well, figure that out. That's called amending a resolution. So you can provide an amendment prior to, or even during, once we get, to the House. If you're not sure what you want to do, you could bring that idea that you have and say, I'm in favor of the resolution, or I'm opposed to the resolution. However, I would like to see the resolution amended in this way. And you can write that down and provide it to the reference committee as well, if that's your idea. You could do that too. Last thing, just like I said, at the end, decide if you're in favor or opposed to the resolution. Most important thing you can do at your caucus. Now, not all caucuses, and I can't remember last. I know for me, it's been a number of years since I've sat in a caucus at MDA. At our ADA caucus that we have before, and then even during the meeting when we have our caucus, we determine a position for the caucus. Most times we are saying it's everyone's right to choose whether they vote for or against, but this is the position of the caucus, just so people know. So, as again, there may be ideas that your caucus would like to bring forward to the House as well for discussion of potential adoption. If there's something, and this is where right now, we have resolutions that have been brought from districts already. We're working on 3 more right now, with another 3 more after that I'm working on, with 3 different delegations that are going to be bringing stuff to the House. So, if there's something at your caucus when you meet and you go, hey, what about this? Talk about it and figure out what you want to do. Remember, a resolution is a substantive proposal presented to the House of Delegates for consideration, discussion, decision, and action. So make sure it's something that's there. The other part is to know that the House of Delegate has the power to advise the Board of Trustees regarding any matter of importance. So when we go through, if the House brings a resolution, if you're going to work one that needs to go to the board, that's where they would go. And you'll see this in the resolutions. In particular, we have with 4 through 6 that are on our resolutions right now. But it is an urge to the House, from the House to the board, for an action that they would like the board to enter to discuss and make a decision upon. So here's an example. So it says, resolve that the House of Delegate urges the Michigan Dental Association Board of Trustees to use its reserve funds to purchase a location in Lansing for the purpose of legislative affairs and so on. So the House is saying, hey, we want the board to sit down and have a discussion about this and make a decision. And this is what we're interested in them talking about. That's what the position that the House has, to do that and urge the board to take action on, to make a decision and to take action if they deem it what they want to do. So the other part is when you're looking at and trying to figure out if there's something you want to do, go through and take a look and see if there's an existing association policy. A lot of times there has been, or we have somewhere in the manual, the House manual, the board manual, or in anywhere else within our association policy manual as well, that might have already addressed that concern. As again, great minds think alike, and your idea might have been a great idea, but guess what? Somebody might have had it before. But with that one, take a look at those as well. And that's another part of the manuals and documents we have that you could take a look at. Again, if you're looking to create something or amend something, let me know. Let Michelle Nichols Cruz know. We're here to help. All right. Any questions looking back at in regards to your caucuses? Any folks that need help setting up for doing a Zoom? My guess would be a number might be meeting by Zoom. Still might be harder to get together on those dates. I know it cuts down your drive time if you do it by Zoom, but the one part with in person that I know from our ADA that we've had an in-person pre-caucus, those are really fruitful because it is a whole lot different meeting in person than it is otherwise. And so I know most regions can get together because they are close by. Obviously, with our larger delegations, Detroit, Oklahoma, they are all in that same county. I know West Michigan will probably have theirs set up here soon. I'm not certain with other ones in between, from the west side to the east side to the north, but those are a big thing. But I hope that you, if you don't know if you have one yet, get a hold of your folks and get that set up. And if you need help setting up for a Zoom, please let Michelle Nichols-Cruz know. She can help you with getting that established if you don't know how to do that already. She is fabulous, folks. Let's get on. Information overload. Here we go. Schedule for the 28th, Thursday the 28th, 2022. First meeting starts at 8:30 start. It's a sharp. I'm going to go through. I'll have my watch. My Shinola will be sitting next to me. Gavel goes down 8:30, not screwing around. After we get done with the first meeting of the House, we move on to the candidate forum. Dr. Vince Benavenia will be going through and moderating that with those who are running for trustee or elected office if there's a contested election there. As I told you before, after that, reference committee will meet. We estimate a 12 o'clock start based on that. Might be a little bit later, could be a little bit earlier. So if you have other folks from outside who are from within the association, but are looking to attend, we can always let them know we estimate a 12 o'clock start, but it might be sooner than that, but for them to be ready for that. Last, the executive session for reference committee will immediately follow the completion of that hearing. Next, on the 30th, regional caucuses. Actually, I think I saw in the notes, so we could change this, maybe beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning with staggered starts, depending on where the caucus has requested right now. And I know if you're a caucus leader and you want to adjust your time earlier, that might be prudent, but we're going to need to make sure we let Michelle Nichols-Cruz know. So if we need to make a change, we can make sure with the event staff there that we have that room space available if there's any adjustments that need to be made. Second meeting of the House, 1 p.m. Guess what? Gavel goes down, 1 p.m. Shinola time. Last half hour after the second meeting of the House is completed, there is a Board of Trustees meeting. And so that will move on to finish off the annual session that we have. All right, here's where you don't have to go through and start taking screenshots, okay? Important things. We have a website, folks. It has a lot of information on it. This is under the House of Delegates page. And yes, I do giggle because this was from a couple days back and we've already made some adjustments because I know that we're meeting on Thursday, April 28th of 2022, and also on Saturday, April 30th of not 2201, but 2022. So we left it there just so I could take this picture. And I know our team was seizing up when I'm like, I think it's a typo. Because I don't know that I'm going to be speaker in 2201. I don't think so. I think I'll be gone by then. But this is one page, so you can see all the other information that's provided here on it. Let's take a look here. Important things you can find on that page that are on there, all the resolutions and reports. This is as of yesterday with the number of resolutions we have, as well as 2 reports already. Just, resolutions 1 and 2, those will be dispensed and taken care of at the first meeting of the House. So that's the agendas and the manual of the House. There is information there to look at. Don't skip over those resolutions. Trust me, there are exciting things in there. All right, so that's resolutions and reports. Other things you can find on the website. So when you're meeting or before the meeting and you're not sure what's going on, take a look at the committee minutes. These are also listed under Leadership Central, and you can go through and find that under reviewing past actions. So one is committee minutes. You can read the minutes of every committee of the association. They're all there. I know if you're trying to fall asleep at night, first you could click this on and watch me again and you'll fall asleep. Or second, go through and take a look at the committee minutes. Pick one and just take a look at it. Or in your caucus, say, well, see what else was going on in some of these committees too. Now you got committee minutes and you got committee actions. You can go right to this part of the page, go through and click on that committee action and see what they're doing. Okay. But on this page, there's a lot that's there. You can see who the members of those committees are, whether it's membership, diversity, equity, inclusion. You can look at for continuing education, all these different areas we have, you can go take a look at, and you'll see that they're representative of the state of Michigan all the way around for who's on there for the other member dentists. So that's committee actions. Next, I'll hit and plug, have a plug here for coming up here next Monday. We're going to go through and have a forum in regards to the proposed bylaws amendments. We do have 3 this year. 2 are from membership and 1 is one that I've brought in regards to changes to the bylaws. So you can take a look at those before next week. And I know all 3 of those were vetted through the bylaws language review committee. And so that's why we wanted to have that there. I just want to make sure we highlight bylaws because bylaws are an important part for our association and for this house. The house is in control of the bylaws as well as the ethics manual and the house manual as well. So those are all there. Take a look at those. Please, before that, it'll give you some practice of pulling stuff up from the website. And that is a good one to do. So you can sign up for that. Yes, it will be recorded. Yes, you can watch it at your own leisure. And that's why I wanted to time these out so they're not always Monday night, because I know I work late Wednesdays, which is why we don't schedule these on Wednesdays. But anyway, and you can always let your other members know they can go back and watch these. I don't know how I'll look if you speed it up to 1.5 times. I don't know about that. But proposed bylaws, I don't anticipate that meeting going more than a half hour. So that one's there. Last one here I have is the House of Delegate leadership training along with the Meet the Candidates session. This is on April 27th. You can go through and click to register on both of those. I know in the Delegate Digest that come out, you'll be able to click and get signed up for those. For what we'll have at the Meet the Candidates, that'll be at the Suburban Collection Showplace. We'll have that. Starts at 5 to 6 is the meet and greet. You'll see a lot of folks there. This one is usually highly attended. For that, prior to the foundation event comes up afterwards, kind of starts in the middle, but they don't start until we get done. They're cognizant of the fact that the number of leaders in the association are in the house meeting. And so they try and hold off starting dinner until we get done, which is very kind of them. I appreciate that. But it also means people are like, okay, we got to go. And that's fine. So the first hour is the meet and greet, meet the candidates, networking, see people you haven't seen in 2 years, except by Zoom. That'll be great as well. Yes, there'll be light appetizers and a cash bar. Secondly, we'll have from 6 to 7 in-person training session. We'll practice through and have a few folks that I will voluntold to get involved. If others want to, if you want to do it and I see some smiles, I might be picking you ahead of time and give you a heads up. Don't worry, it's all scripted. And we'll do it that way. But I strongly, as always, urge to at least have 1 or 2 of your representatives attend that. Great way to get out there, meet and greet. And if you want to talk about resolutions you've brought or hear what other people are thinking ahead of time, it's a great place to do that too. So that's that part. All right. We've had 55 minutes of fun here with this. I will ask and see any questions that you have. Throw them in the chat. Happy to. If you want to fire in, we can do that. Happy to answer those. Again, I do appreciate you taking time out of your evenings to watch this, or time anytime you watch this. As you always know, if you go to your Delegate Digest, my email, my phone are there. You can reach out if it's somebody, if I'm new to texting with you when you text, guess what? Put your name so I know who you are. And through there, otherwise I get random parliamentary questions and I don't know how to answer. The good news for all of you, I didn't know if you know, I'm excited because in April, just so you know, is Parliamentary Procedure Month. That's a fun month. I didn't know that till I just got the thing for the American Institute of Parliamentarians, but Parley Procedure Month, yes, just in time for our MDA house.
I have a quick question, Steve from Washtenaw, and just wondering, I'm an alternate, excited to get involved here and jumping in. We had a full slot, so I'm jumping in as an alternate.
Great.
So specifically on the alternate side, my understanding is I kind of hang in the back. I'm not on the floor. I'm listening. If one of our members needs to adjourn for a little while or something, I would step in as the delegate at that point. Is that essentially how it works?
Stephen, you got it all. Yes. Typically we'd see it, and there would be in the back, we'll have our sergeant at arms who'll be working in the back. We have our some alternate delegates I've selected to follow that role. You would, let's say, Maeve or somebody's switching out and they'll come back there, they'll give them a card, they'll give it to you, you'll go in and sit where they were sitting. And if they're done with their break they need, they'll switch back in for you potentially, or maybe you just stare at them and wave and just keep going. You know?
And then if for some reason someone can't come, then I'm just sliding in for the whole day, right?
Yes, you would be. And at that point, if there's a change that's going to be made through your delegation chair, probably actually for you, Barb, I believe would be the one who would submit that to the Committee on Credentials, Rules and Order. Your delegation would let the CCR and let Michelle know to go through to switch you from an alternate to a delegate. The CCRO, sorry for using acronyms, Credentials, Rules and Order, of which we have 2 members on here as well this evening. They would have to approve that. I don't know why they wouldn't approve. You're already approved as an alternate. You would be moved into the delegate slot at that point.
Okay, and that would be Barb, not Kristen Johnson.
Kristen Johnson might, I don't know. And I think either would be, because I think Barb is, either one would be the one submitting that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep, happy. Thanks for filling it, coming in as an alternate delegate this year.
Yeah, I'm also on the PAC with Bill Sullivan governing it. I can chat with him, but I did hear there's some overlap, or I don't know if there's anything that happens on the PAC side of things at this meeting, or that's all in November.
No, you'll see actually Dental PAC will be there. We'll have a presentation from the Dental PAC chair, will be part of the second day for the House of Delegates. That comes at the second meeting as well. If you didn't see, and I serve on the Dental PAC too. I know I was by Zoom for the meeting in November, but I know there's always a PAC challenge. And if you saw your most recent MDA journal, award-winning MDA journal that just came out here recently, there is the information for the PAC challenge coming up as always. So that's something to repeat. And there's always in the back of the room, we have the PAC has back there so people can go through and make their donations to the PAC too. So the PAC is strongly represented, which is perfect for what we need. Terrific. How about for long-winded answers to a great short question? All right, any other questions? All right, well, it's a small but mighty group here. For those watching it later, again, as always, you need to get a hold of me. I'm pretty easy to find for good or bad with that one, with what I get sometimes. But again, I thank you all for volunteering for your component society for the Michigan Dental Association to take part in the 2022 House of Delegates. I so look forward to seeing you in person in Novi coming up in April, and look forward to a vibrant, well-behaved, nice House of Delegates. Have a great night and see you soon.